The human soldier stepped off the transport ship, his boots sinking slightly into the soft, glowing ground of the alien planet. He looked around, trying to take in the strange but beautiful scenery. The sky shimmered in colors he had never seen before, a mix of deep purples and gentle golds. Towering structures rose in the distance, shaped like spirals and crystal towers that reflected the shimmering light in dazzling patterns. He adjusted his armor, feeling its weight and warmth, but also the comfort it gave him. It was a reminder of home, a piece of humanity in a world so different from anything he had ever known. The mission had been clear: represent humans, maintain peace, and learn about the alien society. But standing there, he could feel the weight of the responsibility pressing on him. He was not the youngest soldier ever sent on such a mission, but he was the only one chosen for this first encounter. Every step he took was watched, every movement noted. It was strange, being both a guest and a diplomat, yet still feeling like an outsider. He noticed movement ahead. Figures dressed in flowing robes of silver and green approached. Their skin shimmered faintly in the light, like polished stones, and among them walked the alien princess. She was young, perhaps 19, but carried herself with the grace and confidence of someone much older. Her hair floated slightly as if caught in an invisible breeze, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence and curiosity. But there was also a hint of mischief, something almost playful yet sharp. The soldier straightened, trying to look composed, but he could not hide the tension in his shoulders. He had prepared for etiquette, for diplomacy, for situations far more serious and rigid than this. But meeting a princess who seemed to radiate both power and mischief was an entirely different challenge. As he approached, she gave him a once-over. Her gaze was direct, unflinching, and even a little mocking. "You wear all that metal for protection?" she asked, her voice melodic but with a teasing edge. "Do humans fear the wind as well as the enemy?" The court around them stifled their reactions, uncertain how to respond. Some whispered in their strange language, others looked at him with curiosity. The soldier did not flinch. He nodded politely and said, "It is part of our way. It keeps us safe and shows respect for those we meet." His voice was calm, steady, but there was a hint of unease. The princess laughed, a sound that echoed lightly across the ceremonial grounds. She leaned slightly closer, still observing him as if trying to see through his armor to the man beneath. "You must be very brave to come here wearing that heavy shell," she said. "Or very foolish." The soldier met her gaze. There was no malice in her tone, but the teasing cut more sharply than any weapon. He realized quickly that she was testing him, seeing how far she could push the human before he lost composure. He had faced enemies, storms, and danger in his life, but this playful, intelligent challenge was something entirely different. It required patience, restraint, and careful thought. He bowed slightly, a sign of respect he had learned in preparation for this moment. "I am both brave and cautious," he replied, "and I have learned that understanding is stronger than fighting, even in places unfamiliar to me." The princess raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed by his words, though she did not let the expression show for long. "We shall see," she said, turning to walk beside him. The rest of the court followed, moving through gardens that glowed faintly with bioluminescent plants. Strange flowers waved as if greeting them, and small hovering creatures darted in and out of the shadows. The soldier kept his eyes on the princess, observing not only her movements but her expressions, learning how she led, how she noticed, things others missed. Despite the teasing, he began to notice hints of kindness beneath her sharp words. She offered water to attendants, adjusted the robes of younger members of the court, and gave subtle nods of acknowledgement to those who had worked long hours preparing for his arrival. She was clever, confident, and undeniably royal, but she was not cruel. The soldier felt a mixture of admiration and caution. He knew this young woman could be a formidable leader, and her wit could be as dangerous as any weapon. They arrived at a large platform overlooking a shimmering lake. The water reflected the sky, creating the illusion of walking on light. The princess stopped and gestured for him to stand beside her. "This is my world," she said softly, more serious than before. "I want you to see it clearly, without armor, without fear. Can you do that, human?" The soldier hesitated, feeling the weight of her words. This was not a request. It was a challenge, an invitation to trust and vulnerability. He nodded slowly, feeling a strange mixture of respect and curiosity. "I will do my best," he said. She smiled, a small, genuine smile that seemed almost shy for a moment before she regained her confident expression. "Good," she said. "Then walk with me. Learn what you can, and perhaps you will understand more than you think." As they walked along the edge of the lake, the soldier realized this mission would not be about weapons or strategies. It would be about patience, observation, and understanding. The princess's playful mockery, her sharp eyes, and her confidence were all tests, not of strength, but of character. And he knew that how he responded here could define the future of relations between humans and her people. The sun, or what passed for their sun, cast long shadows across the glowing ground. The soldier adjusted his armor again, feeling its weight, but also feeling something heavier within himself. The realization that this mission, this meeting with a young but formidable princess, was about more than diplomacy. It was about respect, courage, and the courage to face judgment without anger. As the first day ended and he prepared to rest, he could not shake the image of her face. Bright eyes, mischievous smile, and the way she carried herself like someone who had never known doubt. He knew tomorrow would be harder, the tests sharper, and the mockery more biting. But he also knew that this encounter, this challenge, was something he had to face with patience, courage, and a clear heart. And somewhere in the depths of his mind, he understood that the princess, in her playful arrogance, might be the very person who would teach him more about strength and humanity than he had ever learned on any battlefield. The next morning, the soldier awoke early, the soft light of the alien sun spilling across his quarters. The room was unfamiliar, with smooth walls that seemed to pulse slightly with a warm glow. He dressed carefully, making sure his armor was polished, but not imposing. Today, he knew, would be another day of trials, not of battle, but of patience and understanding. As he stepped into the hall, the princess was already there, waiting. She leaned casually against a railing, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp, scanning him as though she could read his thoughts. When she saw him, she let out a soft, teasing laugh. "You look just like yesterday," she said, her tone playful. "Are humans always so serious? Or is this just for me?" The soldier bowed politely. "We try to maintain order and respect," he said. "Even when we feel unsure or out of place?" The princess raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Out of place? You are far from home, yet you do not stumble. Curious. Perhaps you are braver than I first thought, or just stubborn." She turned and began walking down a long corridor lined with tapestries that shimmered and changed colors as if alive. He followed, careful to keep pace but also mindful of the eyes watching them. Over the next few hours, the princess continued her teasing, pointing out little details about his behavior that seemed odd to her. "Why do you keep your hands so close to your body? Are you expecting someone to attack you at any moment?" she asked, smirking. "Do humans not trust the ground beneath their feet?" He smiled slightly, though he kept his tone steady. "It is not distrust," he said. "It is readiness. Sometimes preparation is just as important as action." She laughed again, a sound that echoed lightly down the hall. It was not mocking this time, but it carried a playful challenge. "I suppose we shall see. If your preparation is enough," she said, "perhaps you will surprise me." As the day progressed, they walked through gardens and open halls, observing rituals, learning customs, and exchanging small stories about their respective worlds. The soldier found himself noticing more than the princess likely realized. The way her gaze softened when she spoke to younger attendants, the subtle gestures of kindness she showed to workers, the careful way she treated the creatures that lived around the palace. She was playful and sharp, but there was also a depth to her that most people never saw. By mid-afternoon, they arrived at a training ground, a large open space filled with strange equipment and tools that glimmered with energy. The princess watched him closely as he examined the tools, her eyes filled with curiosity and amusement. "Are humans so rigid that you cannot enjoy learning something new?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not at all," he said. "I respect what I do not yet understand. That is why I observe first." She tilted her head, clearly intrigued by his answer. "Observation, yes," she said. "But humans are not always patient. You seem different. Careful, yes, but not afraid. I am curious why that is." They spent hours in that training ground, the princess trying to push him into mistakes, to make him fumble with alien tools or misunderstand customs. Every time, the soldier remained composed, sometimes faltering slightly but never losing his calm. She watched him, sometimes laughing, sometimes frowning in concentration. Slowly, a pattern emerged. He was not just following rules, he was learning, adapting, and understanding the world in a way that was quietly impressive. During a break, they sat by a small glowing pond. The water shimmered with soft lights, reflecting both of them in its surface. The princess skipped a stone across the water and watched it ripple outward. "You do not seem offended by my teasing," she said quietly. "Most would be angry by now, yet you remain calm." "Why?" The soldier looked at her, considering his words carefully. "Anger solves little," he said. "Understanding solves more. You challenge me and I learn. That is how I grow. Perhaps that is why I remain calm. I see value even in mockery." The princess studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she laughed softly, a genuine laugh this time. "You are strange," she said, shaking her head. "I expected a human to be quick to anger or fear. Instead, you endure. That is admirable and frustrating." They continued their walk through the palace grounds, the princess alternating between teasing and quiet curiosity. At times, she seemed lost in thought, staring at distant towers or the glowing skies. The soldier noticed these moments and understood they were rare glimpses of her private thoughts. She was a leader, yes, but also someone very young who carried the weight of her people's expectations. By evening, they arrived at a balcony overlooking the city. The lights below flickered like stars, and the air was filled with a soft, musical hum, the sound of the city alive with energy. The princess leaned against the railing, her expression thoughtful rather than playful. "You are unlike anyone I have met," she said quietly. "And yet, I do not know if I like it, or if it makes me respect you too much." The soldier stood beside her, silent for a moment, then said, "I do not seek your approval. I seek understanding. If I earn your respect, along the way that is a gift, not a goal." She looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly, considering his words. She seemed both challenged and intrigued by his honesty. "Perhaps," she said finally, "you will teach me something as well." The day ended with them parting ways, but the princess's curiosity lingered. She found herself thinking of the human soldier long after he left her sight, wondering how someone so ordinary by appearance could hold such quiet strength. For the soldier, the day had been exhausting, but rewarding. He had survived the mockery, learned about the princess and her world, and begun to understand the delicate balance of power, pride, and kindness that defined her. As he lay down to rest, he reflected on the day. He knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges, more teasing, and perhaps more opportunities to prove himself, not through force, but through patience, understanding, and integrity. And somewhere deep inside, he realized that the young alien, princess with her sharp mind and playful arrogance, had already begun to leave a mark on him, just as he had begun to leave a mark on her. The morning sun rose slowly over the alien city, painting the towers and gardens in shades of soft gold and pink. The soldier felt a mix of anticipation and unease as he prepared for the day ahead. He knew that the princess would be waiting with her usual sharp eyes and playful teasing. Yet he also felt a strange sense of curiosity, a desire to see how today would unfold. He adjusted his armor carefully, feeling its weight on his shoulders, and took a deep breath before stepping into the hallway that led to her chambers. As he entered, the princess was already there, sitting with one leg crossed, her posture relaxed but commanding. Her eyes sparkled with mischief the moment she saw him. "Ah, the human who thinks he is unshakable," she said, a teasing lilt in her voice. "Are you ready for another day of learning? Or shall I amuse myself at your expense first?" He bowed, slightly, maintaining his calm demeanor. "I am ready," he said simply. "If you wish to test me, I will meet your challenge." Her smile widened, pleased by his answer, and she stood gracefully, moving to lead him out into the open plaza. The crowd of attendants and citizens lining the streets seemed to sense the tension between them. Whispers spread quickly. The human soldier, armored and composed, walked beside the young alien princess who was known for her sharp tongue. Many of them had expected him to falter or show signs of fear, but he did not. The princess's teasing began immediately. She pointed out the small differences between him and her people, the way he walked, the sound of his boots, the rigidity in his shoulders. "You move as though the ground might betray you," she said, laughing softly. "Do humans fear everything? Or just each other?" The soldier shook his head slightly, keeping his voice steady. "We are cautious," he said. "Caution is not fear, it is awareness. It keeps us alive." Her laughter rang through the plaza, drawing the eyes of everyone around them. Some citizens chuckled while others observed quietly, curious to see the interaction. She seemed to enjoy challenging him, yet there was something deeper beneath her words, an interest, perhaps, in understanding who he truly was. As they walked, the princess led him through a labyrinth of narrow streets and winding paths, pointing out statues, fountains, and gardens filled with glowing plants. Every step seemed to be a lesson, but not one he could easily learn. The princess tested not just his knowledge or skill, but his patience and composure. She made small, cutting remarks about his armor, his manners, and even the way he nodded in response to her words. Despite her teasing, the soldier began to notice the subtle kindness behind her actions. She paused to offer water to a child who had wandered too close to a fountain, and she adjusted the robes of a young attendant, ensuring they were neat. The way she cared for others, even while mocking him, left an impression. He realized she was not cruel, only confident and unafraid to express herself in a way that was unusual for someone so young. By mid-afternoon, they arrived at the Royal Arena, a massive structure that glimmered in the sunlight. The princess gestured for him to stand in the center. "Let us see how well you handle unfamiliar challenges," she said. "This is not a battlefield, but it can be just as demanding." He nodded, understanding that this was more than a test of skill. It was a test of character, patience, and respect. The princess demonstrated a series of tasks, small exercises designed to challenge balance, focus, and awareness. Each time he attempted one, she would watch carefully, occasionally laughing when he misstepped, but never in a cruel way. Her eyes, sharp and observant, seemed to be looking for more than just mistakes. They sought understanding, a measure of his resilience and his ability to adapt. Hours passed in this careful dance of challenge and observation. The soldier remained composed, never losing his patience, even when the princess's teasing became sharper. She pushed him to his limits, testing not only his abilities but his reactions, and he met each challenge with calm determination. Slowly, a new sense of respect began to grow between them, though neither spoke of it openly. Finally, as the sun began to dip toward the horizon, they reached the grand balcony overlooking the city. The lights below shimmered like a sea of stars, and the air carried the soft hum of the city's energy. The princess leaned on the railing, her usual teasing softened by a thoughtful expression. "You are unlike anyone I have met," she said quietly, almost to herself. "You do not react as others would. You are calm, patient, and strangely honorable." The soldier stood beside her, feeling the weight of her words. "I have learned much from observing you," he said. "It is not strength alone that matters, but how we carry ourselves in the face of challenge." Her eyes studied him for a long moment, and for the first time that day she laughed softly without mockery. "Perhaps you are right," she admitted. "Perhaps I have underestimated you." The moment was fleeting, but it left a lasting impression. The princess had revealed a glimpse of her true self, and the soldier had responded with integrity and calm. Both had tested each other, pushed boundaries, and yet found respect in the process. As they parted ways for the evening, the princess remained thoughtful. She realized that her teasing had not provoked anger or fear, but patience and dignity. The soldier, meanwhile, reflected on the day's events and understood that his mission was no longer just about diplomacy. It was about connection, respect, and the quiet strength that comes from remaining true to oneself, even when tested. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps even sharper tests of character. Yet he also knew that he and the princess had begun a subtle bond built on respect and mutual observation. It was fragile, delicate, and easily broken, but it was there, a small but significant connection between two very different worlds. As the city lights glimmered beneath him, the soldier felt a strange mix of exhaustion and anticipation. He had survived the princess's tests, learned more about her people, and seen the depth behind her playful arrogance. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that the princess, with her sharp mind and spirited nature, would continue to challenge him in ways he could not yet imagine. But he also understood that she had begun to see him not as a simple human soldier, but as someone capable of integrity, courage, and quiet strength. That realization, he thought, might be the most important part of his mission yet. The next day, the sun rose with a soft golden glow that reflected off the towers and streets of the alien city. The human soldier felt a quiet tension in his chest as he prepared for the day ahead. He had learned much from the princess, but he also knew she could be unpredictable. Her teasing, once lighthearted, now carried sharper edges. He adjusted his armor carefully, feeling both its weight and the sense of protection it gave him. Today, he realized, would be a turning point. When he arrived in the grand plaza, the princess was already waiting, leaning casually against a column. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and her smile was playful but sharper than usual. "Ah, the human who has surprised me so far," she said. "Let us see if you remain calm under a test that matters to everyone here." The soldier bowed politely. "I will do my best," he said, his voice steady despite the knot of anticipation in his stomach. She gestured for him to follow her into the royal court, a massive hall filled with attendants, advisors, and citizens. The walls were lined with Glowing tapestries and strange plants gave off soft light, bathing the room in a calm glow. Everyone turned their eyes toward the unusual pair. The princess loved the attention, and she used it to her advantage, her sharp voice carrying across the room. "You have been brave," she said, addressing him publicly, "but bravery alone does not make one wise or respected. Let us see if your courage matches your words." The soldier nodded slightly, understanding that her words were both a challenge and a test. He was not here to argue or defend himself with words, but to show through action and presence who he truly was. The princess moved closer, circling him as if examining every detail of his armor, every line of his posture. "Do you know why humans wear such heavy armor?" she asked, her tone teasing yet sharp. "Do you think it makes you stronger, or does it hide weakness?" The soldier met her gaze calmly. "It protects and prepares," he said. "It is not weakness, nor is it vanity. It is choice." She laughed, but it was different this time. Louder, more pointed, and filled with curiosity. She leaned back slightly, still circling him. "Choice," she repeated. "Then what would you do if your armor could not protect you? What if it became a burden instead of a shield?" The soldier remained silent, knowing that this was not a question with a simple answer. He could feel the eyes of everyone in the hall on him, waiting for him to falter, waiting for her mockery to break his composure. He took a slow breath, letting the words settle in the room. Then, with deliberate calm, he did something no one expected. He reached up and began removing his armor, piece by piece. The crowd gasped. The metallic plates clinked softly as he set them aside, revealing the simple clothing underneath. He did not rush, did not flinch, and did not react to the murmurs of surprise around him. He simply walked forward, leaving the armor behind, his steps steady and deliberate. The princess froze. For the first time that day, her confident smile faltered. She had mocked him, tested him, and yet he had met her, challenged in a way she could not anticipate. By removing his armor, he had shown vulnerability, courage, and integrity all at once. The room was silent, the hum of whispers replaced by a stunned stillness. The soldier walked across the hall slowly, his gaze forward, not seeking approval but showing presence. Every step was a quiet statement. Strength is not always in protection, and bravery is not measured by the weight of metal. The princess watched, her eyes wide with a mixture of admiration and surprise. She realized, perhaps for the first time, that the human soldier was not only resilient, but also guided by principles she had not expected. As he reached the far end of the hall, he turned slightly, acknowledging her presence without a word. The princess's lips pressed together and she looked away for a moment, processing the display. She had been clever, witty, and bold. Yet here was someone who had faced her mockery with dignity rather than anger or fear. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer, almost hesitant. You are not like anyone I have known," she admitted quietly. "Most would have reacted in anger, embarrassment, or fear. You walked away." The soldier inclined his head respectfully. "I did not walk away from you. I walked away from judgment and mockery that do not define who I am. My armor is not me, my actions are." Her eyes softened as she studied him, seeing not only a soldier but a man of integrity and courage. She realized that her teasing had failed to provoke him because he saw beyond appearances and expectations. The armor, the mocking words, the pressure of the court, all these things mattered less to him than doing what he believed was right. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The court remained quiet, witnessing a rare and powerful exchange between two very different beings. The princess felt a flicker of respect, perhaps admiration, and a hint of understanding she had not expected. She realized that the soldier's calm, principled nature could teach her something as much as her wit and intelligence had tested him. After a long silence, she stepped forward slightly, her playful arrogance replaced by a thoughtful curiosity. "Why did you not fear being exposed?" she asked, her voice gentle now. "Why did you remove what protected you?" The soldier looked at her directly. "Because true strength is not in what shields us, but in what we choose to show the world. Fear can be hidden, but integrity cannot." The princess absorbed his words, feeling a subtle shift in herself. She had mocked, tested, and challenged, but in doing so, she had opened a door, one that allowed her to see his courage and character in full. For the first time, she laughed softly, not with teasing, but with something closer to admiration. The rest of the court remained silent, but the atmosphere had changed. The princess's sharpness had been met with unwavering dignity, and the room had witnessed a quiet triumph of character over mockery. The soldier, without a word, had earned a rare form of respect, one that could not be demanded, only demonstrated. As the day ended and they parted ways, the princess walked beside him privately, her voice quieter than usual. "I did not expect this," she admitted. "You have shown me something I did not understand before. Perhaps I judged too quickly." The soldier nodded, feeling a quiet satisfaction. "Understanding comes with observation and reflection," he said. "Judgment is easy. Respect is earned." For the first time, the princess truly smiled, her confidence intact, but tempered with a new awareness. She had met her match, not in battle, but in character. And the soldier had proven that courage, integrity, and humility could speak louder than armor, words, or mockery. That evening, as he returned to his quarters, the soldier felt a sense of calm and purpose. The princess's mockery had been sharp, challenging, and at times painful, but it had revealed the strength and wisdom he carried within himself, and he knew that the bond forming between them, built on respect, understanding, and quiet admiration, was far more powerful than either teasing or anger could ever be. The next morning, the palace was bathed in a soft, warm light. The human soldier prepared himself carefully, not because of armor this time, but because he knew today would be different. The princess had changed just slightly after the incident. With the armor, her teasing was lighter now, edged with curiosity rather than mockery. For the first time, he felt that their interactions might move beyond challenge and testing toward understanding. When he entered the royal courtyard, the princess was waiting under a tall, glowing tree. Its leaves shimmered in gentle shades of blue and green, and the air around it seemed to hum softly. She stood with her hands behind her back, watching him approach. When she saw him, she smiled, not in the playful, sharp way he had grown used to, but with a quiet warmth. "You are here again," she said. "I see that courage is not just a moment, but a habit for you." He nodded respectfully. "I am here to learn, to observe, and to understand. That is my purpose, whether in battle or in peace." Her eyes lingered on him, thoughtful and measuring. "And yet, you have taught me much more than I expected," she said softly. "I thought I would test you, see your limits. Instead, you showed me strength in ways I did not anticipate." They walked together through the courtyard, their steps slow and deliberate. The princess pointed out small details in the environment, plants that glowed in patterns, fountains that moved with gentle rhythm, and creatures that fluttered softly in the air. Each observation was made with curiosity, but also with a subtle intent, to share her world, to allow him to understand it beyond what he could see. The soldier listened carefully, not just to her words, but to the way she spoke. He noticed how her voice softened when she was not performing for others, how her eyes revealed both pride and vulnerability. Slowly, he realized that the young princess, sharp and playful as she was carried the burden of expectation and responsibility that few could comprehend. His respect for her deepened with every step. As they reached a quiet pavilion overlooking the city, the princess paused. She looked out over the glowing streets, taking in the sight of her people moving through their daily lives. "I have always thought I had to appear perfect, sharp, and untouchable," she said quietly. "But seeing you, I realize that strength is not always in appearances. It is in choices, in courage, in honesty." The soldier nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "Strength can be shown in many ways," he said. "It is not only in armor or power, but in how we treat others and ourselves." The princess turned to him, a small, genuine smile on her face. "You are different from anyone I have met," she said. "Not just human, but someone who sees beyond what is obvious. That is rare, even in my world." They spent the rest of the day together, exploring the quieter parts of the palace, away from the eyes of the court. She asked him questions about his home, about the lives of humans, and he answered with honesty, sharing stories of his family, his training, and the small, simple joys that humans held dear. In turn, he asked her about her world, her people, and the pressures of leadership. She spoke openly, sometimes laughing softly, sometimes pausing thoughtfully. By the evening, a subtle bond had formed between them. It was not spoken aloud, but it was felt in the quiet understanding, the mutual respect, and the unspoken acknowledgement of each other's courage and character. The princess no longer mocked him. Instead, she seemed genuinely curious, eager to learn from him, just as he had learned from her. As the sky darkened and stars appeared, shimmering like diamonds above the city, the princess reached out and offered a small token from her world, a delicate crystal that glowed softly with light. "This is for you," she said, "not as a gift of mockery or challenge, but as a sign of trust and respect." The soldier accepted it with both hands, bowing slightly. "I will treasure it," he said quietly, "and I will remember what it represents: courage, integrity, and understanding." For a long moment, they stood side by side, watching the city below, sharing the quiet comfort of companionship. The soldier felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His mission had begun as a test of diplomacy, of patience, and of endurance. But it had become something more, a connection that transcended differences in species, culture, and expectation. The princess spoke again, her voice soft and sincere. "You have shown me that strength is not always in appearances, and that courage can take many forms. I hope I have shown you that even pride can be guided by kindness and wisdom." He looked at her and nodded. "You have taught me that leadership requires both heart and mind, and that true respect comes from understanding rather than fear." As the night deepened, they parted ways, but the sense of connection remained. Each had learned from the other, and each had grown in ways that neither could have expected. The princess, once quick to mock, had come to respect and quietly admire the human soldier. The soldier, once cautious and distant, had found understanding and companionship in a world far from home. In the days that followed, their relationship remained one of mutual respect and quiet admiration. They continued to meet, not as adversaries, but as companions who shared knowledge, curiosity, and understanding. The princess's playfulness remained, but tempered with respect. The soldier's calm and integrity became a steady presence in her life, a reminder that strength could be gentle and courage could be quiet. By the time he prepared to leave the alien world, both felt a sense of loss but also of hope. The princess handed him a small, final token, a crystal pendant that shimmered softly. "Remember this," she said, her eyes warm, "and remember what you taught me, that courage is shown not by what we wear, but by what we choose to do." He accepted it with a respectful bow. "I will carry it with me," he said, "and I will remember that understanding and respect can bridge worlds." As he stepped onto the transport that would take him home, the princess watched from the balcony, a smile lingering on her face. They had begun as strangers with mockery and challenge between them. But they had ended as equals, bonded by courage, integrity, and the quiet understanding that comes from seeing beyond appearances. And in that quiet moment, both understood something profound. True respect and admiration are earned, not demanded, and the most unlikely connections can become the strongest when based on honesty, courage, and trust.